We are rolling now.
Ooh,
Counting us down.
tasty.
3, 2. You're listening to Missing Out with Lex Michael and Tari J. Let's start the show. Hey guys, welcome back to Missing Out. I'm Tari J.
I'm Lex Michael.
And we are joined by Brian Andries.
Yeah, it's me, everybody. Hello. It's
Hi.
great to be back. Thanks for having me, guys.
Glad to have you.
Yeah.
If this is your first time listening, what we do here is we introduce each other to different media, whether it be movies, books, television, experiences, things that have built us up as people, and we share them in the hopes that it will build you up. This is the retrospective that is introspective.
Well, I feel pretty safe.
As you should. I took your hand and I was like, come on this journey with us.
I can trust this voice.
And
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not sure. I blacked out. And when I came to, I looked behind us and 2 sets of footprints became one. And I was like, Tari J, how? And you were like, that's when I carried you.
Oh, I thought you got a jetpack. Oh,
I've been inside you this whole time.
what a twist.
It's also a way to avoid people who are tracking you. You see, you walk in a line and they never know how many your numbers are.
Well, that's true. That's actually a survival technique, is to step backwards into your own footprints.
Yeah.
But I think that's a slightly different story. It's like, where'd my footprints go? Maybe you step back. Oh, wait, no, I carried it.
It's
less romantic.
The next Kenneth Branagh Poirot movie and shit.
Yeah.
Where did my footprints go? And it's just they're like these mid-tier movies. Like we did a couple and they did really well, but now that market's sort of phasing out, Kenneth. So if you want to do one of these, got to do it on the cheap. So it's just 2 hours of Kenneth Branagh wandering around the woods, looking behind him occasionally, like jumping back, like he's trying to catch something, and going and then turning right back around.
It's
Just
it's a
making
think
circles.
piece. You
Yeah.
know, you don't get it.
It's one of those, like, a week later after you've read a bunch of fan theories on the internet and stuff, you go, now I think I understand.
Oh, it's all a metaphor.
And Kenneth is like, it's climate change.
Of course it is.
That's why I seem so startled.
It just sneaks up on you.
So Brian brought in Sunshine, the 2007 film, directed by Danny Boyle, written by Alex Garland. So, Brian,
Yes.
pitch this baby to us. Why do you like it? What shall we enjoy about it?
Well, it's a science fiction thriller, and I watched it again yesterday, and everything I loved about it before still holds up for me. I think it's a very unique science fiction film. It's a very unique suspenseful thriller, end-of-the-world style film, at least for me. I think just the way it's executed by Danny Boyle, the way it's written by Alex Garland, and the way it's shot by Ellen Kukler. I feel like I'm messing up his name.
I believe you.
Yeah.
But it's great because it's all in outer space. The basic premise is the sun is dying, and we gotta go reignite it. So anything else going on planet Earth or between these people, rudimentary, secondary. And the whole mission for these people, for the planet Earth, is to reignite the sun, because without it, we're all dead. So that's where you start off, and then where it goes from there is very exciting in terms of the human drama comes from that, the problem solving, and the tension that builds up, and all the things that happen when you're lost in space, or you could be lost at sea. The same problems arise, and same things that they have to solve.
Yeah.
So all of the character stuff works for me. The special effects are amazing because it's practical. They're using practical effects. So you don't have to apologize for, like, oh, it was made in the 80s, and so the CGI wasn't really there, or something like that. It still looks great. But I'd have to say the biggest thing for me is the way the music's used and the sound design in order to make you feel, heighten everything that's going on. And so watching it for the first time, I had a 1080p TV. 2007, that was like 8K, that was pristine.
Yeah,
so I was
right,
watching it alone at midnight with my brand new sound system 5.1, and this movie demands that, just because it's not a flashy Michael Bay style summer blockbuster, but just with the score and the visuals and the stakes
Yeah.
of it. It demands that, and I believe if you sit down and you watch it, you'll be hooked. Because my plan was to watch it for 30 minutes the first time I saw it. I was like, I'm going to watch this and go to bed because I got to be up at 5 a.m. But I started watching it, and I couldn't stop, and I just was at the edge of my seat, and it happened again yesterday. I was just saying, this is awesome. I was actually had my hands up. I was like, this is awesome. I still love this film. And Lex, you can attest, I don't watch too many films.
It's bizarre. It's bizarre. You're a capable person at very many jobs, many positions that directly facilitate the creation of motion picture material, and yet, I don't understand how you do the things without absorption.
I don't know either, but I do know the movies that I do love, and this one especially is one that I can champion because I also love it because it seems to have flown under the radar. I remember going to the theater in 2007 and seeing Superbad, but then right next to that poster I saw Sunshine, and I knew, it's like, that looks like a great film.
Yeah, like Sunshine, I love that.
But it's not a boner comedy, so I'm not seeing that right now. But
I mean, from a certain perspective, maybe it is.
maybe,
Yeah.
You
The
know,
dying sun is a metaphor for erections. It's all about ED is what Sunshine
Yeah.
is.
And the only thing that'll get this boner back is a bomb the size of Manhattan.
Yeah.
Welcome
The
to
bomb
Icarus
is,
2.
Yeah, the bomb is Viagra. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's all there.
And it takes 8 people on a spaceship to get it there. So
So this is a star-studded movie, though I feel like at the time, everyone who's in it was not unknown, but they were a lot lesser known. So we have like Benedict Wong, Michelle Yeoh, Cillian Murphy,
Cillian
Murphy,
Rose
Chris,
Byrne,
Chris
Oh, yeah,
Evans.
Chris Evans.
is a big one.
Cliff Curtis is in it. Mark Strong is
Mark
in it.
Strong, yep, absolutely.
Oh yeah,
And I haven't. So I saw this movie in theaters in 2007.
Oh, you
Saw-
lucky man.
Saw it once. Today, before the show, was the second time I've ever seen this movie. So I knew what happened, right? But I'm coming to it practically fresh. It's like I'm watching it, but I have like I'm watching it for the first time, but I have spoilers. Is what the general experience was comparable to. And watching it again, having forgotten most of this cast, I was struck by how few of them I had been familiar with at the time, and how pretty much everybody to a person has gone on to much bigger, higher profile careers.
Yeah, I think almost everyone in this movie has actually been in the MCU, with the exception of Cillian Murphy, who is in the DCEU.
I don't think Cliff Curtis has been in one of these.
He's been in something, I think.
And the gentleman who plays the captain, Kanata, is a Hiroyuki Sanada. I believe that's how you say his name.
Yeah.
Fun story. I actually met him one time, but I was too chicken to say I love you in Sunshine. I think it was, it was kind of like a work thing. But I saw him, and that's the first thing I thought of. Was just you poor guy. So yeah, that was a rough mission for him. So, but yeah.
Yeah. And so you had mentioned the practical effects, and I thought I had read that essentially the hardest effect for them to do was all the sun stuff, because rendering the sun took a large number of hours, but everything else, like every bit of CG had a practical component so that they could get as genuine reaction from the crew as possible. And it really showed. Like, there was a level of commitment to authenticity on this set that I thought was really admirable. Like, they also had the cast and crew live together for a while.
Yes.
And each of them did like space training. They had required reading. Like, they really wanted to portray it, and it rings out throughout the movie. There were moments where I was like, space is scary, and just the level of like physical detail that they included was phenomenal.
Yes, and that's the thing is within the first 10 minutes is just about here's how things are going on the spaceship heading to the sun. It's called Icarus 2. And so the crew is basically living out their life, and I think they pull a lot from Ridley Scott's Alien in terms of whether it's aesthetic or just day in the life, the how they interact and talk, and it's very grounded
and right, all this insanely futuristic technology by today's standards, but everything feels very lived in.
Yes, and you have the big buttons to press, and you have this circular device that you have to spin around, so it's all really still tactile.
Yes,
and doesn't. There's a few things that they stylize, like there's a hearing cone where you have to put your head into this certain portion of it so you can hear the signal, which is like, ooh, space age, and it offers a cool visual. And going back to the rendering the sun, in that regard, what I'm speaking of, this comm set is green, and obviously the sun is full of oranges. And I noticed the color, especially this time around. Maybe it's just from focusing more on cinematography and watching films in that regard. But yeah, just the sun itself, you can see why. There's the first scene. It's not a spoiler. There's a gentleman, Cyril, is looking at the sun in their viewing area and asking, "Oh, how bright is this? You're seeing the sun at 2% brightness." Mm-hmm. And so then you're immediately like, that is minuscule. And so he's curious, how can I see 4%? You will go blind.
Yeah.
The computer on the spaceship says you will go blind. It's like, what can I see? 3.1% for 30 seconds.
Right.
And so he straps in, he basically says, do it, and just gets flooded with light. And then, the sound design kicks in and just blows up. And so then, so throughout that whole experience, you got the camera floating around. You got the deep oranges and reds of the sun peeking through, and it's bouncing off the walls. So yeah, the practicalness of how it's shot, and then it's beautiful on its own. It doesn't need a big explosion or a huge tracking shot outside with all this extra stuff going on. It still works.
In terms of cinematography, those sequences where characters are hit with this blinding sunlight, you get these super tight close-ups with this crazy shaky cam, so you actually feel, you can almost get that sensation of being blasted in the face along with that character.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then the super close-ups, you're right, in terms of the eye suddenly starts to look like the sun, or sunglasses start to look like the sun. Is all this, there's all this refracting of light. And another practical effect is they actually used additional pieces of glass, put it in front of the lens to do more refraction. And so it almost looks like it could be computer generated, but I did watch a little bit of a behind the scenes video where they just had the camera going, had the actors working, and then just moving some pieces of glass, just finding like, oh, that one worked. And they probably just sift through 20 minutes of them playing with pieces of glass that they grabbed off of some crafty table or something like that. But it worked, and it that with the sound design married together makes for an emotional response.
Yeah. I want to drop down the spoiler wall right now because I want to talk a little bit about some of the themes, just especially as you're talking about just the blaring magnitude of the sun and how it's represented in the movie. Mm-hmm. So, guys, I hope you're sold. If not by our talk of the cast, then the talk of the sweet practical effects or the great storytelling and the cinematography. So if you haven't seen it, I recommend it. Check it out and then come back. If you have seen it, continue on this journey with us. But now the spoiler wall is going down, and it's down. So I really liked, I had read that there was a lot more like religious metaphor in the original script, but Danny Boyle wanted to like make it more subtle, wanted to like taper it down just to appeal to wider audiences. Mm-hmm. But like you can still feel the remnants in the way that the Cyril character almost kind of worships the sun and just wants to bask in its light. And at the end, you get this character who is essentially become I don't even know how to it's
like a sun wraith.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's supernatural in that regard, but yeah, that is a big theme. That the first time you watch it, you're trying to collect the information. So that the first scene where he's in the sunroom, it's establishing obviously that the sun can kill you. This is an enemy. We need the sun.
I love that we have to establish that the sun can kill you.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's dangerous. I started to think of it as a out at sea movie. It might as well be, because the ocean is the same thing. It's beautiful, but it can swallow you whole.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, the next thing that happens is we're sitting down, we're having lunch with the whole crew, and while all this action's going on, Cyril's talking about the sun, but the way it's shot, you could totally miss his fascination with it. So it's darkness is the absence of something, but total light, it envelops you, it becomes you, and so you can see here in the dialogue that this is starting to happen with him, and like you said, they breadcrumb it along the way so that it's not winking too much, but it definitely presents itself by the third act in its most extreme form, which that has to be the most contentious part of the film, I'd say, is the final act, but it still works for me.
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw it, the only other time I saw it, I had an experience not dissimilar from what I think a lot of people had, which is when you don't know where it's all going, it feels a bit like it turns into a completely different movie somewhere in the third act. But going back, knowing where it's heading, you can definitely see how they're laying the groundwork for that, for it to go all the way in that direction. It's there, but I could definitely see if you're going in not knowing what you're getting, what you're in for, it feels very abrupt and jarring.
Mm-hmm. And then the filmmaking as well, where he's able to, there's a lot of longer shots. There's a lot of just when they shoot the outside of the ship, it's very flowing, and all of it's really slow. And then even when you have a big action set piece outside the ship, things gradually happen nice and slow. But then the moment that the third act kicks in and it takes that tonal shift, the editing's much faster, and it's more stylized shots and things like that. So I was watching it and going, yeah, this is shot somewhat differently than the beginning portion of the movie.
Right. Well, and on top of aesthetic shifts in terms of technical cinematography, yeah, you've got an almost genre shift into slasher territory, but you also get these big, there's that big, totally abstract seeming space that they're in with basically the grid floor. You know, it feels completely disconnected from reality in a way that the rest of that last act feels completely disconnected from any kind of discernible, recognizable reality.
Yes.
Which is interesting because there's a line that kind of lays the groundwork for that whole section, which I was wondering if they were going to play with, where they're running the simulation on the payload and they get to 70% and he's like, no one knows what's going to happen. Like time and gravity and space are all going to be mixed together. Like,
becomes unquantifiable. Yes.
Right. So like, I'm glad that we got that payoff of it, essentially becoming a more psychedelic bonkers thing, especially because, you feel, and I think that because it had so many different inspirations, you feel all of the different inspirations kind of coalescing, some of them well and some of them a little more shakily. So like the beginning is very much like 2001 A Space Odyssey with a little bit of Aliens thrown in there, and then the end you get just as much 2000 Space Odyssey, but the end of that where you get the like weird psychedelic roomy type stuff.
And then you've also got like a Freddy Krueger looking motherfucker killing folks.
Yes, because he worships the sun, thinks he's the last man out there. Everybody else is dead. Am I alone with God now?
I've spent 7 years talking to God.
And then he gets up off the floor and he's like, just again the sound of just flesh ripping. Ugh.
And you do get occasional shots of Mark Strong's face, but for the most part, he's practically an abstraction himself at that point.
Yeah.
Well, and then going into talking about some of these points where it seems like once they're in the grid-like bomb structure that it seems totally detached. One of the notes I wrote down when I was watching was the cinematography of the theoretical or the conceptual. Or it's when we start saying space and time are going to mix and bend, it's like, what does that look like? How do you convey that? And I think that's really exciting because, again, with the practical nature of how it's shot, it's like, okay, how do we see something that nobody's ever seen before? How do we shoot something that we can only talk about or philosophize about versus we can make a 500,000 man army in my computer and we can put it in a film, so that we reached that threshold even in 2007 where you had your Troys and things like that. You had your Lord of the Rings where you're able to smash huge animated soldiers together in battle, and that was a spectacle and exciting. But after a while, I think that gets old. And so what I find fascinating is, space and time become smeared together. What does that look like?
I'm still stuck on Troy. I completely forgot Troy was a movie.
Yeah. I mean, I just remember the long shots where people are smashing into each other.
I just remember Brad Pitt being like, "Is there no one else?" And I think he kills Eric Bana. Spoilers for Troy.
I don't know. How dare you? I've never seen it.
Troilers.
Oh, Troilers.
No. It's all bad now.
Oh, jeez. Wasn't Cassie? She was in Troy, right? I believe I had read that her performance in Troy is how she got into this movie.
Yeah. And Rose Byrne has gone on to a very, very big career since.
So with Rose, Rose, here's another thing about the film is it's 8 people on a ship and they all have a purpose and they all fight for their purpose throughout the whole movie. That
was the original title.
We all fight for our purpose.
Alex Garland turned in the script, and it's like 8 people on a ship, and we all have our individual jobs, and we're all fighting for survival. A script by Alex Garland.
Yeah. After several rewrites, they came up with Sunshine.
They're just
he's like, your marketing people will do it. Don't worry about it.
It's a very exciting time for titles.
The title page is just the first page of the script, and it's got the marks on it. Then it's like, that's the whole title, by date, draft.
Well, Alex Garland was a big Panic at the Disco fan, so he saw how long their song titles were, and he's like, I could do that for movies.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good time for that,
It was a great time for sentence-long titles for songs.
That's how we end up at, like, the Birds of Prey title. Isn't the title of the Birds of Prey movie they're making something like Birds of Prey and the Emancipation of Harley Quinn, Fantabulous Emancipation of something? It's a big string of words.
Yeah, DC likes their long titles. Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice.
That means it's more serious film if I put more words on front.
Right, of course. See what it's talk about Rose Byrne.
What? I can't talk about it now. No, just kidding. So, but she's the pilot, and but then she is also somewhat of the emotional core or the soft core of the group versus Chris Evans, who is a co-pilot / engineer on the whole ship. And then
Rose Byrne is like the heart of the crew. The bar she has to clear is, maybe we shouldn't just kill that guy.
Yes. But then again, that's the great thing about this film is because they present everything and everybody pleads their case and you go, yeah. Oh, yeah, I agree with you too. This is a dilemma, and it's all for the sake of mankind. And so the stakes couldn't be higher, and there's a lovely sequence. There's a couple of them where Cyril is talking about the risk of, it's Icarus 2 is what we're talking about. They're on the Icarus 2. Icarus 1 was the ship that went out 7 years ago. And so they kind of just say it, don't really give it much attention, and then guess what? We get to Icarus 1 is sending out a distress beacon. What should we do? And so then Cyril lays it out. It's like, well, we could adjust our trajectory. It's so close, 10,000 miles away. It's so close. And you go, oh my gosh, why is that so close? We're in the infinity of space. There we go. I had to be disappointed in myself to say it. But so even in that regard, he's listing, is it worth the trouble? Should we get a second bomb out of this? We're not there to save their lives. We're there to get a second chance at the only chance we got to save our planet. And then he says a lovely thing after Chris Evans' mace says, he says his side of the story. We shouldn't do that. It's too risky. He's like, you're right. It's a risk assessment. And if you know anything about the military, we fill out risk assessments all the time. And so when I was watching this with some Army buddies, and he just stops and says, "It's a risk assessment," we all went, "Yeah!" and we clinked our drinks together. And so that's just something I really like, is the drama is always focused on that. It's not, "You slept with her, how dare you?"
Right.
Because that was another thing that was in the original film. There's a little deeper connection between Cassie and Kappa. There was a more overt relationship between the two of them. But then they peeled that back as well. And so, peeling back the sun worships, peeling back the relationship stuff, it really just leaves you with, we gotta go ignite the sun, and it keeps the focus seemingly.
Would you say having your military background, right, and in terms of risk assessment, if science fiction has taught me one thing, it's you don't ever fucking go off mission. Every time these fuckers go off mission, everyone dies.
Yeah.
Every time. So do both of you think that it was worth, clearly it didn't pan out well for them, but let's assume that they don't all die. Like, let's assume it's not a guarantee that they're all toast. Is it sound? Do you think it's a sound, rational decision to run the risk of going and getting that other thing when hopefully you've planned the thing out well enough that you could pull it off?
Well, I think it becomes a matter of the simplest truths, as that first principles theory, where it's, you reason your way back from the most simplest truth, and then you can build from there. And so when they run the simulation, that they say, "We're going to vote." "No, we're not. We're going to give it to the most qualified person to make this decision, our physicist." And then Kappa goes, "Shit." It's like, why me? And so then he runs the simulator in their big Earth room, and basically all the calculations, all the data gives them nothing. And then after that, he just goes, 2 less hopes are better than 1. And then the captain goes, "That's it." It's like, oh. So then with that logic, it's okay, that makes sense. We don't know if it's going to work. We don't know if throwing a bomb into the sun is going to reignite it. But if we have 2, that might be better. So
But
I can see why they would want to do that.
I get the logic, but if time is of the essence, right? Like, if the sun's going out and you don't know for sure that no other obstacles are between you and your ultimate destination, I would just be sitting there like, yo, guys, we have, but there's a plan. There's a plan. There's a mission. We might go over there, and the sun might poof while we're over there. We should just go. We should go. Look, I see the sun. We should just go that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the risk heavily outweighed the reward. Yes, maybe it didn't. Maybe it wouldn't have worked. But if the one that they didn't work, then the second one wouldn't have done it either. So, I mean, they should have just completed and had the wherewithal to, like, if they were going to visit it, do it after you set the payload loose. Maybe then venture your 100,000 miles away. That's fine. Do what you want with your time. But, like, do the mission first.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the struggle of it. Is it's still a film. Sadly.
No.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
What you do is you deliver the payload, right? You complete your mission, and then you turn around, go back to Icarus 1 at that point, get their bomb, come back to Earth, and be like, look, we didn't even use a bomb. We did it with magic.
Put these men in jail. Burn the witches.
But I spent 7 years talking to God.
Yeah, they keep him in a cage, bring him back. Barnum and Bailey Circus.
It's like, hey, let me out.
But you're right. Like, if they hadn't made the decision to go to Icarus 1, we wouldn't have had a movie. It would have been just a bunch of people walking over and then been like, we accomplished our mission. You guys want to hang out?
That went well, yes.
But at the same time, I do feel like I enjoyed a lot of the space survival stuff. Like, just the stuff of them having to, like, fix 3 panels because if they are 1 degree off, then, like, they might burn to death. Like, that stuff was really interesting to me.
Yeah.
And so, like, even if that were the whole movie, I would have been down just because it has the same feel as, like, Gravity or just that one movie.
Well, then Interstellar was another pretty recent one where that becomes the big difference between those two for me is the whole human interest angle, the human element or the relationships element, because they spend a fair amount of time on planet Earth, and then you've got Murph, the daughter subplot and the whole time travel piece. But then the moment they're out in outer space and having to deal with those same things, if we land on this planet, 7 years is going to go by because of gravitational pull, and you just go, yeah, wow, this is something I have never had to consider in my entire life.
And I'm so relieved.
I get in my car, I upload Waze, and then I say I'm going to go to my friends to do a podcast. I don't have to worry about gravitational shifts along the way. Or
You get here, we've aged 7 years.
oh no, I shouldn't have taken La Brea.
It also reminded me of The Martian because of the idea of having to do these like super advanced calculations and how being just the smallest amount off can result in utter disaster.
Yeah, and Benedict Wong was in that one too.
And also both films feature nice botanist representation.
Ooh.
Got some plant cultivation, got some green-thumbed characters in both pictures, and
Hell
I'm not
yeah.
talking about Martians.
That's yeah.
I see
get
what
it.
Oh,
you did there.
I'm just doing you today. I'm doing the Tari J shtick.
It's
Yeah.
a good bit. I love it.
I mentally checked out like half a week ago,
Uh-huh.
and I've just been trying to do you since
Okay, then I'm gonna do Lex. I'm like, boo! You made it bad.
then. You made it bad.
Yeah, you're
Is
the
that
guy.
Jimmy Stewart?
Yeah.
You made it bad.
Oh,
You ruined the sun.
my name's Lex Michael.
Your jokes hurt me.
Oh no! Oh, I was having a good time.
Perfect. He wasn't in that film. The horrors of CGI did not bring Jimmy Stewart onto the Icarus 2.
I spent 6 years talking to God.
He could
Seven.
He could
I
have
meant
been,
7.
He could have been Harvey, the second in command, the comms officer. He was a little Weasley.
He was.
Yeah.
I read that Harvey was the character and the name is based off of Harvey Weinstein because both Garland and Boyle hate that guy. And so they were like, we're going to name this gross, dumb, rude guy after him.
Yeah.
All right.
And he got sent off into outer space.
Oh,
Yeah.
That is also a great little sequence where they've gone from the Icarus 2 to the Icarus 1. They're exploring it, and then the ship separates, and so now they got the vacuum of space between the two ships, and they got to launch across. And so then Harvey shows up and goes, "What's happening? Oh, we need to get Kappa back so he's the only one who can deliver the payload. But I'm the captain of the ship.
But I want to be the one who survives. Me.
What are you gonna do? Shuttle back more suits?" And then they say somebody has to stick around to open up the door. They have to manually override it, and then Harvey once again, "Oh, I get it. It's gonna be me, isn't it?" And Cyril, "No, it's me." And there's just this lovely shot, like a 2-shot, of Harvey just standing there. Goes back to wrapping himself up.
like that moment read
Fernie
to me
pads.
like he had this moment of clarity where he realized, oh, I am going to survive this, and I'm a piece of shit, and I'm never going to live this down.
In fact, he went off course because he's just like,
I
you know
can't
what?
do it. I can't face it.
Oh no!
Chris Evans is gonna give me shit.
But no, so speaking of Harvey floating off into space, I remembered that everybody meets their grisly demises over the course of this film. I did not recall how absolutely harrowing some of these deaths are. Harvey freezes to death in the vacuum of space, and you see the moment where he opens his mouth and he just exhales ice. Yes, I am glad that's not me. I'm good not going to space unless absolutely necessary if that means that can occur.
Well, and then it makes a lot of sense that they did not like Harvey and they named this character after Harvey Weinstein because you get basically the car backing up over the corpse shot, which is the edge of the ship. You see little old frozen Harvey. Poof! Gets blown up on fire. You didn't need that shot. I mean, it could still tell you that, hey, look at how scary space is again.
Still dead.
I mean, he also, like, his corpse gets hit by just a piece of the ship and his arm, like...
I think one of his comm
shatters.
towers even
Yeah.
killed by his own sword. So
Good.
Yes, it makes a lot of sense now. And then, and then Chris Evans, the Human Torch, gets frozen to death as well.
Yeah, he's got a habit of playing characters that spend a lot of time frozen.
Oh, talk about a winter soldier. I never.
At this
I
point,
haven't seen Snowpiercer either. No.
everyone listening in their car just swerved.
It's because they didn't adjust their shields on their car, so then the sun burnt their comm towers off.
No.
People make mistakes.
They do. I feel like Chris Evans was really good in this movie.
Yes.
He's good in a lot of movies he does. He's a very renowned actor, and he's great at what he does. But I'm also all that to say, I'm glad they made him cut his hair.
Well, I thought it was a smart decision because I didn't immediately pick up back in 2007 who he was. Mm-hmm. And so to have him scruffy, bearded, and all that, he doesn't look like the jock that he was back in those days. You know, he was in Fantastic Four. He was in, what was that? He was in some comedy film.
Yeah, not another teen movie.
Not another teen movie.
That's the first place I can recall seeing him.
Yeah.
Same.
And so then the moment he gets the haircut, that's when I made the connection. Oh, it's that. Great. I've already enjoyed this character enough and not going, oh, that's the Human Torch or whatever, you know. So it's
Yeah, it's that guy I like, but surlier.
For sure. But yeah, and then getting the haircut, it's no longer distracting, but that also lets you know it's been a while. It's cabin fever setting in 16 months.
Yeah.
So, the beard had a purpose.
Catch food.
Right.
To catch
Yeah.
food. That's right.
You know.
To stay warm in the vacuum of space.
It didn't work. It didn't protect him.
Yeah, if only he had put his hand in his beard, he wouldn't have got
When he got in that
frostbite.
coolant tank, yes. He should have taken off some clothes. As I was watching that, like, that's no way to stay warm. You know, because that's how you dry off faster if you don't have clothes on, but then that would have been a very awkward scene to just cut back and forth from.
I mean,
slowly just articles of clothing in slow motion flying off of his body, and then he just throws his fist in the air and goes, yeah! And fucking cannonballs into the coolant.
Well, Adagio and D minor is playing by Kevin Murphy. What is that, John Murphy? I keep messing up that gentleman's name, the gentleman who did the score.
It's one of the Murphys.
yeah.
It's one of the renowned Murphys.
Killian?
Yeah.
Killian Murphy.
That's why you thought of it.
Yeah. Of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, them and Underworld, make some awesome music for this film. And there's another moment. One of my favorites has to be when they just take the time to say, "Hey guys, you got to come see this," and they all sit down, and the captain of the ship says, "I give you Mercury." And it just stops. They open up the wall. It lets some more sunlight in. And you just see the floating ball of mercury going by while some, plinking of guitars, little tech sounds is the whole atmosphere of the scene. It's just this nice little touch. It unnecessary. All it really did was let you know that it's beautiful out here. There's some beauty to be had, and they're that close to Mercury, and we barely ever get to see that darn thing.
I have not been that close to Mercury myself.
Never. Me neither.
Oh, guys, you should go. It's really nice in the summertime.
The Airbnbs are pretty approachable.
It's true. You really want to stay on the south side, though. It's the best. It's where you feel like a local.
Well, now I want to put up a Icarus One Airbnb ad. Where just it's the location of it is millions of miles away.
Yeah.
Warning: may have a sun worshiper dwelling inside of it.
Right. I feel like you
Hashtag
don't
pardon
want
our dust.
you don't want to attract too much attention though, because you don't want them to gentrify Mercury.
Right. Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
But I don't know. It could use a Starbucks. It really could, and a Whole Foods.
And a Whole
yeah,
and
that's the one thing
Panera
that's missing.
bread.
Yeah.
You need a Panera bread.
Though Panera bread is it's getting low in quality. It's dropping down in terms
true.
of like.
There is a sunglass hut though.
That's
very
good.
important.
Yeah,
That's good.
Uh-huh.
They're doing real well. They're on Mercury.
Jeez.
It's their primary export.
Just cheap sunglasses.
Oh man,
That's what they should have done with the movie. We're picking up signals from Icarus One. yo, but guys, we're like 50 miles from Mercury. We get some great sunglasses.
Yeah, they all high five, and then it's like a spring break montage.
Are you ready for the summer?
And the glasses, the supposedly super advanced glasses they have on Mercury are just the shitty plastic ones you get in bowling alleys and stuff.
Folkleys, yeah.
Yeah, it's if this were like a TV show, this would be their beach episode. You know,
The beach
like
episode.
You take a little break from the drama. That Mercury scene, to me, because this was my first time seeing it, it very much felt like one of those moments where you're like, this is the last time anyone's ever going to be happy. And
That's true.
Yeah.
It's
'Cause,
after
like,
that.
every thriller, every like space horror movie has one of those moments where everyone's getting along and doing a thing, and then you're like, oh no, this is where it starts going downhill. We're at the peak, guys.
Yeah. Pretty soon we're going to be flashing the flashlights like across the lens. We're going to see the dead people from Icarus 1 flash on the screen.
Can I talk about the flash frames where they kept showing, this was like the beginning of the like tone shift when they got on the Icarus One, and every time the flashlight would hit the camera, it would be like a flash of one of the old crew's faces. And it was successful in giving this feeling of a like unsettling, like extra or like supernatural feeling. But I personally did not like it.
Why?
You didn't.
I didn't. I'm not like, I don't like flash frames. I hate them.
Okay, wait. So before we go further, explain.
I think that they're jarring, and they like take me out of movies.
Okay, because they're meant to be jarring.
I know that.
But yeah, so they worked for me, and they worked for me again. And I was watching with some friends who hadn't seen it, and that happened. I just love the moment when it happens because everybody goes, "Wait, what?
Yep.
What was that? Did you guys see that?" And then it happens again. Oh, happened again. Make it stop. It's terrible. Yeah, because it's a happy face, but the fact that it just flashes onto the screen, it's
Yeah.
all sunburnt looking, and then it leads to the conclusion, which is, oh, this is the crew of the Icarus One.
Yeah.
And they do that so they can use it again later, and I think that's when it really worked for me when they did it the second time.
When they pay that off.
Yeah, when the Icarus 2, the onboard computer was talking, "You are dying, Kappa." It's like, no, and we know we're dying. We're sending this bomb into the sun. It's going to be okay. You won't make it on time. And then they start doing the math. Negative 5 crew members. Flash of Pinbacker. It's like, oh no, it's happening again. Why?
But I also like I see the jarring effect works for me because it puts you very much off guard, and it's a way when you're getting the flashes of the crew's faces, it's a way to make it less abstract when they come in and they see these bodies that are essentially ash. You can actually connect it to a human face and go like, oh no, these are real people that are dead.
Yeah.
This isn't some crazy asshole brought a bunch of soot onto the ship and made little people sculptures. These are dead people. Yeah,
And they were happy at one point in this photo. They were
Right.
very optimistic.
Right.
And that's the only time we ever see either crew on planet Earth is that photo, seemingly, or wherever they took that photo. That's what I also love about this film too. Is just first shot is the ship coming at you. We're already there, folks. We're already out on this mission. We're not going to see them kissing their kids goodbye.
Right,
Irrelevant.
you don't get that scene from like Mission to Mars that opens the movie where it's the party and it's like, all right, Jim, have fun in space, don't die. And Jim's like, I won't, folks. I'm the protagonist. And no one sees Jim again.
I know the scale says that you'll only be 13 pounds in space, but you should lay off the sweets, buddy.
But I love potato chips. And somehow like Lay's is a sponsor of the movie and potato chips factors significantly into the climax of the
Yeah. He's
Careful,
like,
they're ruffled.
he's rewiring one of the things, and he's like, I just need, salt is a great conductor. And puts a chip in the motherboard, and that's how he fixes the ship.
Yay.
Yep. That's sponsored by Lay's.
By Lay's, yes. Oh, that's great.
Lay's. Lay your life on the line.
Don't worship the sun. I guess Sunships would be a pretty good.
Yeah,
That's
that'd be great.
That's the logical corporate.
That's
tie-in.
right. Well, that's the writer's room.
Which it was right there. You dumb asshole! It was right there.
Womp womp. Oh man.
I speaking of writer's room, I really liked how the movie got a really bittersweet ending where like they accomplished their mission and they established early on with Killian Murphy's
Just like the
video. With his like message back to his sister, that like if they succeed in their mission, like it'll be an extra bright day. And so like, and I like that was eventually paid off with like her watching the thing and then getting that bright day because of him, and the work of everyone working together to complete this mission despite all of the tragedy that befell them.
Yes, absolutely, because it's beautiful. I do love the way it ends because that hard shift into a horror slasher film, we run that through. We go all the way to the end where we start ripping skin off of Pinbacker's arm, and then you fall off the bomb. The bomb has its own gravity, and so they slide across it. Space and time is bending, but then we eventually get to when he ignites the bomb, and everything slows down, and we just get to have this surreal moment where it's okay, he's dead, but you got this wall of sun and flame, and he's able to touch it and admire it and love it, and then we cut to the super blue planet Earth. Things slow down, and you get to basically pay off one more thing where it's message back home and say, hey, it's gonna be okay, and then we know that it was not all for nothing.
It is. There's something really fulfilling and poetic about it. But what I really wanted was for them to go just a couple minutes further and turn it into a monkey's paw scenario where they reignited the sun, but the sun turns around and it's Pinbaker's face like the fucking Teletubbies baby's son. And he's just like, I am God now. And the Kappa sister drops to her knees. And just like one tear comes out of her horrified eyes.
And then the Puff Daddy song from the Godzilla soundtrack comes in.
And then smash cut to brought to you by Sunships. And then the credits roll.
And a big crunch sound. That was in the first edit. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, they really had to like taper it back a little bit. Just
it was just the effect would have been far too costly.
Right.
Speaking of which, I'm blown away by the fact that they apparently made this movie for $40 million.
That's right. Yeah.
This is a massive movie. It feels the scope of this thing, the scale of this thing feels so huge. And as we've been talking about, just about everything is done practically. This movie feels like it costs a crazy amount of money, and he was able to make this thing for $40 million.
Yeah, and I think,
I mean, with the qualifier that yes, $40 million is a lot of money.
It's not $200 million,
right?
Yeah.
If we're talking like what they poured into like the most recent two Avengers movies, you could buy a continent for that amount of money. By comparison, 40 million small potatoes, and the fact that they were able to stretch that budget, it looks like there was so much more money than that on the screen. I find it really impressive.
Me too. And there's this the sequence where they have to go and fix the panels, and they have to reset those, and just the wave of heat and sun and like the parallaxing and the wave that they're able to accomplish there. I didn't do any reading on what that was or what sort of mixture of effects is going on there, but it's so effective.
Yeah.
And then with $40 million, you go, well, they weren't able to throw a ton of money at this thing, and it seemingly isn't just a wall of CGI. It's not a wall of computer animators going to town. They're able to accomplish things that still hold up, and they're going to keep holding up. When I show this to more and more friends and just go, hey, let's watch this, because I don't have to apologize for any of the sequences.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of the, like, for example, when they were fixing the panels, it was a mixture of models that they use, like miniatures, and just like stage work. Like when you see them walking on the things, it's a sound stage, but then like all of the big exterior shots were models that they used.
Yeah, well, it's that great marriage of using everything that you've got, every tool, because the 90s were exciting in that regard, the early 90s, because like Jurassic Park is the best example, where how many minutes of that is actually computer generated? Like 7 minutes, something along those lines. Yeah. And so, but then the rest of the time, you got to use puppets and animatronics, and you got to, not show everything in the frame, or Alien is another great example of that. And so you had to go, oh, this was a miniature, and then we cut to this, and this part was practical, and just to jump around.
And we're still not at a place technologically where even the best CG can replicate that tactile feel of using actual sets, models, miniatures. I miss miniatures. I really do, because again, the best CG is still not, even when you're looking at something that isn't meant to look human, there's still that uncanny valley type thing where you go, oh, this is really well rendered, but I know instinctually that this is not something I could touch.
Right.
And it makes all the difference as far as grounding the audience in the reality of the movie.
Yeah, my favorite instance of miniatures is that sequence from Independence Day where they blow up the White House, which is, it's all just a inverted, not inverted, but like a vertical version of like what the White House looks like. They blow it up, and then which allowed them to film like all of the fire going up and out, and they composited that into the streets and things of that sort, which was a great way of and I guess another example would be like Star Wars, all the old Star Wars.
That bullshit.
Yeah, whatever.
I haven't heard of that film. Tell me more.
You wouldn't like it.
Is that the one with Hayden Christensen?
Oh, yeah, totally. He hates sand. It's coarse. It's everywhere.
Not like you. Oh, gosh.
Man. I mean, so I feel like the big question is like, could you go on a mission that is potentially a suicide mission if you knew it would save all of humanity?
There's something to that as well, right? Where it's, I think I can empathize with that plight, because it's always, especially where we work in the creative realms, where they're always talking about stakes, or like what would people do in this situation, and how hard would you fight for this? And I'm always a sucker for these types of films, the science fiction films that explore this. We have to save planet Earth. And it's like, yeah, I agree. Like, let's go do that.
That sounds like a good thing.
Yeah, and then everything you meet along the way is secondary, and you have to jump over those hurdles and get it done. And so right now we have people volunteering to go to Mars and be on that frontier, and so yeah, I think it's a noble cause.
It for sure it is. But my first question would be, does it have to be me? Will someone else do it? Will this get done either way?
No, the question is, they're like, you're the only one who could do this, Lex. You're the only one with the resolve. Yeah. You're the only one who can specialize in this one specific thing.
I would be like, who is it you think I am?
Oh, wait. Are you Lex B. Michael?
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry. We'll go next door.
Well, since we're here.
Guess we have to kill you now.
But I guess to play Pinbacker's advocate, is humanity worth saving?
Yeah. We're all just stardust, nothing more. Why should we challenge this? There's that whole prospect too. Well, that's isn't that the age-old question for existence, humanity? What is life but to live and to make it better for our next generation? So, yeah, I think the message of the movie is don't stare at the sun for too long, because I think that's what's wrong with most people in Los Angeles. We're just in the sun, too much sun, too many pinbackers on the Icarus. That's what I always say.
Far too many people who do think they're talking to God.
It's true.
But really, they're just talking to themselves.
So you just everything's a metaphor for driving from the valley into Hollywood, and so Hollywood is the sun, and you have pinbackers screaming at you along the way on the 101. He's like, oh no.
You're in traffic, you look to your right, and you just
Sun's got another one. But he's all refracted again. He's just like this blurry.
All of a sudden your vision does a super tight close up on him. It's like, what's wrong with my eyes?
Curse you, Danny Boyle. Curse you.
Skin, your windshield.
It's just like, take it. Fuck you.
Not again. What a nuisance.
I'm all burned. I have to get new headshots now.
Oh, no.
If you can think of anything for me, can you let me know?
Keep my ear to the ground.
I was on SVU last season.
Well, it's good that he's working.
Yeah, good job, Pinbacker. Wish he'd stop messing up my car.
More skin, fuck you.
Yeah, he's always mean to me, but wants favors. It's crazy. Guess it's how it is. Can't burn those bridges.
Golly, like these films are kind of like I'm trying to think of other movies, other genres or situations where you get to that philosophical level, like what's worth living. You don't do that for most romantic comedies. I'm not going to say all of them. 27 dresses. That was the first one I thought of too. Yeah, where it's like they stop and they just go, "What's it all mean? What is this? What are we doing?"
I like the finale where Katherine Heigl's slow dancing with her doppelganger. It's just a big CG dress and shit.
That's great.
Yeah.
But you were going to say, I was going to say war films, something along those lines where you just have this huge. Is it just the obstacle that you have to overcome, or the enemy, or the threat, and the amount of focus you have to put on it that allows you to get to that point where you discuss humanity and philosophize on that?
I mean, that's definitely Garland's jam, right? Because we've talked about two Alex Garland projects on this show before, Ex Machina and Annihilation, one of my favorite movies from last year.
Yeah.
And they both take a sci-fi premise and use it as a way into interrogating big existential questions, frequently and explicitly, about what it means to be human, and examining the human condition and the different ways that we are all varied, but we're all locked in this almost this fatalistic struggle to give meaning to our existence, to try and find some sort of purpose before we are in effect eradicated, like everything that has ever been and presumably will be. Like that's his jam.
Right. Like you could imagine that, and I'm not going to say from Alex Garland's perspective, but like from a certain perspective in this movie, Pinbacker could be right. Like he could have spent so much time with the sun that like the sun is a living, breathing thing potentially in this universe. And so what we did to preserve our own existence was take something that was dying naturally and essentially injected it with steroids to make it relive again against its will.
Mm-hmm. Playing with his God. We're playing God if we're doing that. Yeah, it's not of our will to make that happen.
But yeah, so like, what if the son wanted to die? What if the son was like, "Yo, like it's my time to go. I've said goodbye to all my grandkids. I've lived a full life. I'm ready to go." And we were like, "No, we're gonna keep you alive. We're gonna put all the tubes in you, and we're gonna just keep you there.
All the sun tubes. Yeah, take you to Sun Hospital."
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem, really. Well, and then it goes back to the simplest truths, where you just have the littlest kernel of a window back to planet Earth, and it's just Kappa's sister. Yeah, he says, "Hey, sis, kiss the kids," and they're out there. It's freezing cold in Sydney, Australia, at the end of the film, and so it's you get to see a young generation. The only kids you ever see in the film are in that last scene, and because we're surrounded by 30, 40-year-olds that are just trying to solve this problem. But then you go and you see these kids when they're running up to the hill, they're swinging their arms and being playful. And so then I feel like it gets really simple at that point. It's like, oh, like these kids, they have a life that they want to live too. They got things that they want to experience. At least that's whenever I go home. Like I'm always surrounded by adults here. Whenever I go home and see my nieces, it's just like, it can be that easy, that simple. It makes sense.
Right.
Just, the next generation, passing it on and making it the best for them so that they can do their best and reignite the sun when they need to.
And then they hit around our age and realize how badly we fucked it up for them, resent the shit out of us, scramble to try and put it all back together, and then inadvertently fuck up the next generation, and on it goes till the sun really does burn out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing cycle, guys.
Yes, that's
the best cycle. No, we have to make sure that we leave the planet and each generation in a better position that it was in before we go. Climate change is real. That's what I'm saying.
No.
Make sure you take care of the planet. Stop using plastic. It's bad. It doesn't biodegrade. Guys,
we need to start storing all of our fossil fuel instead of using it, so we have to have this bomb ready to go, because the sun will do this to us. It's a cue ball effect. I think that's what it's called. Actually, I was trying to read an 8-ball effect, something along those lines, where there's some loose theory about, the sun could potentially start burning out like that, and then we have to solve that problem. So that's why we're all buying electric cars now, because Elon Musk is storing all of the fossil fuels that we're saving with Teslas, so that he can build his super bomb and send it off to the sun. I mean, that the Tesla model, what was that? A Model X? What did he send to space? Or was it just the regular Tesla C model? That was a test for what's to come.
Space driving.
Space drive. Drive the space car into the sun.
I mean, if I was rich enough, I would hoard all the fossil fuels and be like, figure out an alternative, motherfuckers. You're screwed. And I would like slowly release videos on social media of me just making angels in petroleum. And then one day, when I die, because that will kill me, I'd be like, you bury all of it with me.
No, you gotta shoot it into space along with your body.
Yes.
And blow it up. And send it, pack you and all the fossil fuels into a Tesla. Like a big string of Teslas, and launch them into space and blow them up.
Yep. That's what I would do if I had all the money.
Talk about a legacy, That's you can't forget that guy. Time to go redo the history books.
Yeah. Guys, we had a real life Mr. Burns.
We're really only teaching that guy in school now. All history is now irrelevant. This guy's the only guy that counts.
He's altered so much that we lost a moon because he shot all of his belongings into it.
Yeah.
We no longer have waves in our ocean.
Yeah, I told them to try to miss the moon, but they were like, it's the only way.
That was the one bright spot in your whole will, and they thought, that's got to be a typo. He wants this going to the moon.
And one guy's just like, we just scraped it. It's it. We just scraped it. We just fucking scraped it. It's all that happened. We just scraped the fucking moon, I swear.
Yeah. It makes a pool cue sound when it gets hit. You have the wide shot showing all of his stuff. Tink. It just flies. No friction whatsoever. Just, oh no.
It's just indefinitely, because there's nothing to slow it down. So the moon just goes forever.
Oh. And Benedict Wong is like, I was only 1.1 degree off.
People make mistakes. Oh, yeah, Benedict Wong, no. Why did we trust you with this major task?
What I find wild is that he did all of the work, right? Because he was doing all these calculations to alter their trajectory, and it was all fine, except he overlooked one detail that was very crucial. Why wasn't there one other person in the room just to be like, hey, did you remember this thing that will maybe mean we don't all die?
That's a big sticking point where the computer would allow that to happen at all, but then it overrides eventually. Yeah, you're right. That is one point where...
I'm not disappointed in the computer. I'm disappointed with this crew of ostensibly smart professionals.
16 months, man. Everybody, complacency sets in.
They're fucking tired.
Look, did you see Chris Evans' beard?
It's true.
Need I say more?
It's true.
It's not a 16-month beard, though. They should have given him a 16-month beard. Like a Civil War general beard just growing out of his neck.
Mm-hmm. Guys, we are running out of time. So,
really?
What are your final thoughts about this movie? What should people walk away from this podcast thinking about when it comes to Sunshine?
For me, I think it works on many levels. I mean, we got to the philosophy of it. We started talking about the deeper themes after talking about some of the more the technical aspects, and that's really what I love about the film is you can quite literally just take in shot by shot and go, wow, they made some strong choices with the color, the lighting, the lenses they used, strong choices with the music, the sound design, but then also while being entertaining and having a great pace, it explores some of these themes without hitting you over the head with them or stopping the movie to look you in the face and go, this is bad, this is good. And for all that, I think it gets it done in about 2 hours. That's why it's one of my favorite films. And it also flies under the radar, so I can champion it and tell people, hey, this one's worth going back and seeing.
Yeah, this was a movie that apparently Cillian Murphy's involvement made him pivot from agnosticism to full-on atheism. So if that doesn't sell you on this thing, I don't know what will. That's all I needed to hear. But on top of that, this is a really great movie. I'm a little bummed that I am only now coming back to it because that's so many years I could have spent watching and rewatching this thing. I now firmly intend to pick up a copy of it because I want to delve in. I know like Danny Boyle does a commentary. I want to know more about it. I want to spend more time with this thing because I'm insanely impressed by it. If you like anything Alex Garland's done and you haven't checked this out, check it out. Yeah, it's pretty dope.
Yeah. I think it's this being my first time seeing it. It was captivating. The set design was great. The costume design was awesome. Like the very distinct, very claustrophobic spacesuits were really interesting. I think the storytelling was great. The cinematography great. Yeah, I would highly recommend it. Those are my final thoughts. That's it.
Lovely.
Watch it for the spacesuits. Watch it for Dead Harvey.
Yeah.
Dead Harvey.
If Daft Punk had to go to space, that's what the spacesuits would look like.
I actually read that they were based on Kenny from South Park.
Oh, yeah.
That tracks.
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
That very much tracks.
Wow.
Cool. Brian, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure to talk about this film with you both.
Where can people find you if they want to talk to you more?
Well, you can find me on Instagram at Bandries. That's BANDRIES.
Awesome. You got any upcoming projects you want to plug or anything?
Oh, well, I'm currently putting out music on Spotify, iTunes, anywhere that you listen to music besides FYE. There's no physical CDs. Remember FYE, guys?
I do remember.
Wow,
FYE.
that was a thing.
I went to the mall and I was like, I want to pay for some discs. Thanks, FYE.
But if you go to my Instagram, I have a link in my description to the music, and you can take a listen. Synthy, pop punk stuff, pretty easy going. Should be a fun listen.
Awesome. What about you, Lex?
Where am I?
Yes.
I don't have any music coming out.
Oh, damn. All right, back to Brian. Oh, my gosh. Tell me more. No.
Like, why the fuck are you talking to me and
Where
shit?
do people find you, you jerk-pole? What? You're a jerk-pole.
Yeah.
Jerpole?
Jerk-pole.
What's a jerpole?
A wee bit dirty.
Yeah.
I am on Twitter and Instagram at the Lex Michael.
Awesome. You can find me at TariJ, TaurijAY, but you can find this podcast at Missing Outcast. That's MissingOutcast. That's on Instagram and Twitter. But if you want to give us a call, get your voice on this podcast on Missing Out Mondays, you can hit up the Missing Out hotline, which is 978-MISS-OUT. Give us a call and let us know what you're into. Let us know what you think about Sunshine.
Let us know what you think about anything.
That's true.
Let us know what you think about, I don't know, botany. Let us know what you think about bottle cap collecting.
That's
Just
something
follow your whimsy.
I haven't done that. I had coin collecting. My mom had a coin collection, and so that they're like bottle caps.
All right, guys, thank you for joining us. We will talk to you
Ruined
next
your
week.
perfectly good clothes.
Until then,
It's all right. It's all right. We're going to leave it in. We're going to leave it in, and they're going to see that we're human, too.
I'm not human.
I have spoke to God for the last 7 years.
Pinbacker, no!
Just crashes it.
The most heinous act he committed was moving to L.A. and starting a podcast.
All right, this has been the retrospective that's
Oh, my
introspective.
God, and now you have a new perspective. Oh, my God.
Welcome to the Sunday worship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found it very exciting.
We lock ties.
Oh, it's bad now. It's worse than it was.
You're worse than it was.
That was in the soundtrack, though. Yeah, I do remember that song in Sunshine.
Spliced over the credits.
Yeah.
Did you know a turkey puppet once ran for the presidency of Ireland? Did you know that meat once rained from the skies of Kentucky? Did you know that there was an emperor of the United States for a while? Then listen to the Wiki Ship Down podcast.
We live in an age when the sum total of humanity's knowledge can be found in your pocket on a smartphone at any given time. But when that knowledge is peer editable, like it is on Wikipedia, what does that say about mankind? So follow us down the digital rabbit hole as we drink, joke, and curse our way through the random button on Wikipedia and see where our journey through humanity's knowledge takes us.
While you're at it, follow us on all social media at Wiki Ship Down. I'm Ruth Ann.
I'm Ryan, and be sure to find us every Wednesday on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or wherever you listen to podcasts.